Thank you so much. Thanks for that introduction, Angela. Um, you know, as Senator Portantino said, I think first and foremost, I'm a mom. So every single day as I get up and I get to do this work, I have the privilege of doing this work. It really is so that we can flip the switch, especially when it comes to mental health. And, you know, we talk about stigma, and what I have seen even in this last year is that our youth have really risen to the call and have said, you know, give me the tools, give me the resources, because we are having conversations with ourselves. And, you know, in the very beginning of all this, schools did what schools typically do. Let's hurry up and create those resources for the parents and get them out there, and that's going to serve everybody. And the reality is many parents weren't able to be at that. They were concerned about losing their jobs or losing hours. And so what we found is our youth were supporting our youth, and like they often do, right? We support our friends. That's what we do. We have those late night texts and calls and you know, just connecting that way. And so we really worked hard to get the information out to our youth as you continue to have this conversation. So it is an honor for me to be here and to share some of the information that we've been doing at the commission, and as well, I'm going to share some voices from the field. We did ask our educators, you know, what are those concerns that we need to be thinking about, and get that from your students. What are you hearing most about reopening? And then I'm also going to talk about an event that I would like to invite all youth to. So if we can get started, we have slides. Do I need to share my slide? I'm not sharing my slide. Angela, I think, are you?
We have them here. Sophia, do you have those we can pop up?
Thank you. Thanks, Chris. Is it Chris?
I'll go ahead and pull those up. Give us 1 second. Sorry about that.
No problem. Meanwhile, I'll tell my 17-year-old and his buddy to keep it down when they walk in the door.
I just sent my kids the same text.
Yeah, exactly. So I'm going to mute you so I can run to the door and tell them.
Yep, I did that. I said, put the dogs out and close the doors. All right, let's pull this up real quick. Sophia, do you want me to pull those up on my end?
Yeah, it's not coming up full screen for me.
Okay, no problem. Give me 1 second. It's not an online event if we don't have some kind of small break for technical issues.
That's exactly right. And the dog is in the bathroom, and the cats are heavily sedated with their treats. So all is good until the young ones walk in.
All right, so let's go ahead and pull that up here. And then, is that visible to everyone?
It is. We do see the notes on the side, but I think if that's where we're at. There we go.
Oh, the screen side here.
Uh-huh.
Let's see.
I think okay. I think just what I shared, we can always share these slides later. It's
okay.
Fine. Is that okay?
Yeah.
All right, so we can go to the next slide, which just simply says what I said earlier, what I'll be highlighting today. So the Mental Health Services and Oversight Accountability Commission works to really support and lift up the concerns and identify things that we can do to make mental health stronger and address services and resources across our state. And so if we could go to the next slide, please. We, in the work that we have been doing, we've identified the Youth Innovation Committee, which it was formed in 2019 to identify unmet mental health needs of California youth and to identify opportunities for innovation. The committee is made up of 14 members, ages 15 to 25, from 12 different California counties. And the committee has worked with the Youth Leadership Institute, the Born This Way Foundation, the California Youth Connection, the Children's Trust, and others to gather research, host focus groups, and to conduct a statewide survey to better understand opportunities to improve mental health wellness for young people. So the commission is very dedicated to hearing from youth, shaping programming around youth, and again, breaking down the ways we've done business in the past where we're just doing things at youth and to them and for them, but really how do we involve that voice? Because as Senator Portantino said really well, They know much more than what we do, right? And so it's important that you help shape the future of what's going to be happening for mental health services in California. So if we could go to the next slide, please. What the commission did with the Youth Innovation Group is they created idea labs. And after a deep dive into research, the committee chose to focus on these idea labs and really have conversations with our youth to increase prevention and mental health services across all of our systems, not just in our schools, but even in our after school programs, our extended learning programs. What can we do better? And so the committee developed that youth-led regional idea lab concept to provide an opportunity for committee members to work with county behavioral health leaders, local youth, and adult allies to explore innovative solutions that counties can test to increase preventative mental health services in schools. And primarily in schools, because that's where we see more youth coming. And so these are some of the ideas that were formed. Peer-led mental health curriculum classes, right? And so Senator Portantino talked about that. The incorporation of racial equity into curriculum and support services. What we have found, and I think what's really been highlighted in this last year, is racial anxiety and everything that goes on with that dynamic. Mentorship between grades. Youth will listen to youth. So just as I talked about earlier, they're sharing the ideas. And so how can we mentor one another? Transitional programs to support incoming ninth graders. We know that our ninth graders struggle. In fact, we know that a critical time is between middle school and high school that summer. But we also know if we're better at incorporating resources and support for our ninth graders, we're much more likely to have them succeed. We also talked about flexible class settings, which is also in the legislation now, thankfully. And less focus on grades and more focus on overall wellness. And then youth wellness center zones. Student voice committees at all levels. We want to see that at the state level, and we also want to see it on our local county levels. So there is AB 573, which is asking that the governor assign a youth mental health board at the state level, but also encouraging each of our 58 counties to have youth mental health boards that again inform that the local delivery of resources and services. So those are some of the things from our idea labs. We can go to the next slide. We also were able to talk about what's the wish list. This is what we've heard from the multiple meetings that we've had, and this is what the youth have been telling us. We want in-person safe spaces. We also want, those wellness centers and counselors and therapists. And what's important is they ask for, or our youth ask for providers who are people of color, LGBTQ plus, understand the dynamics of the different groups that we have, the different cultures that we have. And so really, how can we promote that? How can we speak up to that? And then also, our youth yearn to talk more about their mental health and build resiliency. So it's not just about tell me about the mental health issues, but also talk to me about resilience, talk to me about problem solving, talk to me about just how to navigate what's going on. They want accessible services, not just emergency and short-term mental health services, right? So we can do that. We have those emergency supports, and the short-term mental health that's even timed. It should be relevant to what the issue is, not what the timing of the programming is. They also, what the youth said loud and clear was fight mental health stigma, and then mental health trainings for counselors, teachers, and peers. And thankfully, a lot of this legislation is already pushing through. So I would offer that in working with NAMI, continue to speak up, continue to participate in anything that has to do with legislation around this, because you are making a huge difference. And right now, more than ever, we're listening. So with that, we took ideas from the Youth Innovation Project, and that helped inform a report that was designed to do the Mental Health Services and Oversight Accountability Commission. So I'm just going to call it the AOC from now forward, okay? So we can go to the next slide. So again, youth voice was there. The report was adopted by the commission, and we can send you the link to where you can read more about that. But let me highlight some of the things that are relevant to youth in that report. So if we can go to the next slide. A couple of the guiding principles, and this came from hearing what our youth had to say and from multiple meetings that we had across the state. What was loud and clear, that schools should be centers of wellness and healing. It's not just about the education. About the academic education. If we are there to educate, let's educate the community. Let's work with our parents, and let's extend beyond just the discussion of academics. And then also, Some other things that came out of it was we should establish a continuum of culturally, linguistically, and LGBT responsive mental health services and supports, adopt trauma and healing and informed practices to mitigate trauma and toxic stress in students, implement positive discipline strategies such as restorative justice to reduce suspensions and expulsions, ensure each student has at least one adult at the school that they can trust and turn to for support, and provide students with daily opportunities to strengthen wellness and resiliency skills. Guiding principle number 2 is youth and families must be engaged and have ownership. Again, we don't want this to be just one more thing that comes out from the state that, you know, it's a beautiful handbook, has a nice cover, and then we just put it away. We really want to make sure that this is being used and that we're informing all of our practice to engage our youth and have our families really buy in with the ownership of this by owning it. And so establish youth and family wellness councils to guide schools planning and policy. So I know that many of the groups that we have at schools already says, and we need a parent rep. Well, it needs to be beyond a parent rep. It needs to be somebody who's active, who speaks to, who sets agenda, who can speak to where the dollars are going. It really has to be an empowered position. Engage youth and parents in training and teaming for school mental health and wellness. Peer counselors, we've talked a lot about this. This has been lifted up too. You know, we learn from one another, and we do better when it's with somebody who looks like us, talks like us, is there, and has gone through it. And then engage with communities to develop positive discipline policies was also another one. So we can go on. Recommendations that came out of this report then were establish state leadership around this, invest in wellness to support programs, and provide support to counties and school districts. So that's the recommendations too that we have made in that report. So that's the OAC piece of it. Now what I would like to share with you as well is it's important for us to be getting, again, at all levels, youth voice. So in the next slide, we met with, as I said, professionals who provide universal mental health services to youth. So they care about what's happening for all mental health, not specific populations, but for the whole school community. And so we asked these questions. We asked, what are the most pressing issues that we need to be thinking about as we open our schools? And I share this with you because while we did this in San Diego County, we are sharing it with all 58 counties because we meet with all 58 counties around mental health. So the next slide, please. Loud and clear was the comments that student, staff, and parent anxiety is a major concern, and the social stressors, grief, and loss experienced during the pandemic, coupled with the uncertainties and anticipation of schools reopening, is creating high anxiety. So the ask from our students was, we need a balance between academics and mental wellness. It has to be considered. We can't expect our students to come back, hold them to the same accountability of academics that we had a year ago when they've had an entire year of most being on virtual. So take that into consideration, focus a lot towards finding that balance and have conversations about it. We need to be very explicit about wellness conversations, mental health conversations. And next slide, please. The other thing we heard is students have lost social connectivity and many engagement and motivation in schools. Many of their motivation and engagement in school has suffered. So they're asking for time, resources, intentionality towards building relationships and fostering engaging school climate will be very important as we take in all those considerations. So again, we will share this. This is what we have learned from our youth, and this is something that we will continue to promote as our schools reopen. And then finally, I wanted to extend an invitation, and this is an invitation to an event. It is a student event. We didn't call it, we were very intentional in calling it an event, so we could go to the next slide. It is the Mind Out Loud event that we are inviting you all to. The mission statement, we can go to the next slide, please. The mission statement is boldly discussing mental health, Mind Out Loud, inspire students to live authentic lives. We have youth who are serving as ambassadors who are helping shape this programming. So we are trying to reach out to all youth across the state. So just the next slide, it will occur May 4th through the 6th from 3:30 to 5. It will be via Zoom. We're inviting all California middle and high school students, free registration. And the exciting thing is when you go to the website, we can go to the next slide. When you go to the website, you can also sign in. Teachers and school staff can sign up and they have watch parties, and they will host a pizza party for our students. They're going to have great speakers. Really, just our hope is that we're going to connect youth with peers across California, hear from engaging speakers like Angie Thomas, the author of the bestseller, The Hate You Give, and be equipped with practical tools for wellness. So, and there you go. So I hope I made my time. Thank you so much. I will say this, your voice, your actions, and advocacy, you are being heard. Please continue to use them and share. Reach out to any and all of us. I don't know that I put my contact information, but I would love I will put my email in the chat. So I hope I made my time, Angela. I think I did.
Absolutely.
So,
thank you so much
for allowing me to be here. It's my privilege. And I will put my email in the chat. So if you ever want to reach out, please do. I'd love to hear
Thank you so much, Mata. And we put the information on Mind Out Loud in the chat box. We shared a link to the Commission's report on student mental health. Really exciting to see the members of the Youth Innovation Planning Committee. We had Matt Dipp and the folks from Cypher yesterday hosting a workshop. And then we also have a workshop this afternoon with YLI. So really excited to see the intersection of our work. Juan and Kylene were speakers at our symposium last year, and they're just phenomenal folks doing amazing work in their communities. So it's really exciting to see those folks kind of take those next steps into their journey and their advocacy work. But really, thank you so much for you being here with us today and sharing the information. You're doing so much wonderful work on the education level with so many different partners. And so we're really happy to have hosted you today. Thank you for being patient with our technical difficulties and getting that up and running. But yes, we've got contact information here, Mind Out Loud information, student mental health report information. And then there was a question earlier. We will have these materials available after today's event. And so if there's anything on the slides or anything that we've covered, those will all be made available too. But yeah, thank you so much. I'm going to turn it over to Sophia. She'll get us started transitioning into workshops. But yeah, thank you so much for being here. And Sophia,